Boxing champ Gervonta "Tank" Davis is wanted by Miami Gardens police.
We are here to address a domestic violence incident involving professional boxer Gervonta Davis, also known as Tank.
If he is convicted, it could lead to some jail time, and that's obviously going to postpone any plans he has for any.
The boxing world just got rocked. Miami Gardens police have issued an active arrest warrant for Gervonta "Tank" Davis, and this time there's video evidence that could end everything. We're not talking about some minor scuffle or Twitter beef. This is a domestic violence allegation with surveillance footage that investigators say backs up the victim's story. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating for Davis. This isn't his first rodeo with the law, not even close. Tank has built one of the most explosive reputations in boxing, with knockout power that sells pay-per-views and a lifestyle that screams success. 29 fights, 29 wins, 27 knockouts. He's been positioned as boxing's next megastar, the kind of fighter who can sell out arenas and generate millions in revenue. But that carefully crafted image is about to collide headfirst with a pattern of legal troubles that's been building for years. Let's break down exactly what happened, because the details in this police report are damning. According to the official complaint, Tank allegedly confronted a woman at her workplace, described as a gentleman's club, and that's where things turned violent. The victim claims Davis grabbed her by the back of the head, gripping her hair with one hand while simultaneously holding her throat with the other, then forcefully dragged her down a stairway. Now here's the kicker. This isn't just a he said, she said situation. Lead detective Gary Florenz has personally reviewed surveillance video footage that corroborates key elements of the victim's account. Think about that for a second. In an era where everyone has cameras and everything gets recorded, Tank allegedly committed an assault that was captured on video. This transforms the entire case from an allegation into documented evidence that prosecutors can put in front of a jury.
Happened back in October, according to Miami Gardens Police Department. The ex-girlfriend told officers that Gervonta showed up to her job, which is a gentleman's club in town, and he put his hands on her. And police say that they have surveillance video that corroborates.
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. This October incident is just the latest chapter in a disturbing pattern that spans years. Davis has been arrested multiple times on charges ranging from domestic-related incidents to serious traffic violations and even breaches of court-ordered probation. Remember the hit-and-run case that made headlines? That resulted in house arrest and probation, but somehow his boxing career continued without missing a beat. There was another domestic dispute, also caught on video, that followed an almost identical pattern. It's like we're watching the same movie play out over and over again. Each time a legal storm erupts, Tank weathers it and returns to the ring. Each time his team manages to minimize the damage and keep the money flowing. But here's what's different this time: the evidence is stronger, the scrutiny is more intense, and the boxing world is finally starting to pay attention to what's happening outside the ring.
This in from Baltimore. Boxer Gervonta Davis will not go to jail for a hit-and-run crash. That crash happened in 2020 and injured 4 people. Today, Davis was sentenced to 90 days on house arrest and 3 years of probation. Davis had pled guilty in the case in February. He is also facing domestic violence charges in Florida. Davis, one of the best boxers in the world. He has a 29-0 record with 27 wins coming by knockout.
If I hit a female, right, wouldn't it be mad other females? Like I ain't been just with one female. Like I'm 30 years old. Like, let's be real. I've been with more than one female. Wouldn't mad females come out and say something about me?
And get this, right before one of his major fights, another bombshell dropped. A woman identifying herself as Tank's former romantic partner filed a civil lawsuit alleging a 5-month relationship marked by consistent physical abuse. She accused him of aggravated battery and false imprisonment, citing multiple separate attacks, with one specific Miami incident being the most recent and severe. The timing wasn't coincidental. She came forward just as Tank was about to cash in on another massive payday, knowing that's when her story would have maximum impact. This lawsuit painted a picture of systematic abuse, not isolated incidents. We're talking about detailed allegations of violence spanning months, with specific dates, locations, and circumstances that investigators could verify.
Gervonta. She trying to take my...
Now listen to this part. When police questioned Davis about the latest incident, he offered his own version of events that's frankly hard to believe. According to his statement, the entire dispute started when the woman allegedly tried to take his vehicle without permission. He claimed she took his car keys from a counter and was actively trying to leave with his car, positioning the confrontation as him defending his property. But here's the problem with that story. Even if someone takes your keys, that doesn't give you the legal right to grab them by the throat and drag them downstairs. Self-defense has very specific legal parameters, and protecting property doesn't justify physical violence against a person. Plus, if someone's stealing your car, you call the police. You don't take matters into your own hands, especially when you're a professional athlete with hands registered as weapons.
Yeah, she trying to... but I got a driver to be able to take her wherever she want to go.
That works. All right. Who else is in the house?
No, for sure.
Who you live with?
Oh, my daughter and my other daughter.
All the shit.
Hold up, did you catch what just happened with some of the commentary surrounding this case? There were these bizarre interjections and personal observations that honestly make no sense in context. Someone mentioned geographical details about an individual involved, noting that she lived in Canada still. It's a weird piece of information that seems completely disconnected from the main story. Then this same person continued with some truly unusual descriptions, saying, now she's low color, she's low color, she's low, she's a little Parkman, she's a little Parkman. These are direct quotes, however confusing they might sound. It reflects the kind of raw, sometimes incoherent commentary that emerges when high-profile incidents play out in public. It adds another layer of chaos to an already complex situation, showing how these stories get twisted and distorted as they spread through different communities and social media platforms.
That's my job. What's your side of this?
She's trying to take my car. This is my truck. All my keys is placed on the counter. And she took my car key and she tried to leave with my car.
But wait, it gets worse. The timing of this latest arrest warrant couldn't be more devastating for Tank's career trajectory. He was positioned for some of the biggest fights in boxing potential rematches with Gigo Roach and Isaac Pitbull Cruz, or even a massive career-defining bout against the winner of a Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez clash. We're talking about fights that could generate tens of millions of dollars in revenue. But here's the brutal reality that boxing analysts are starting to acknowledge. Even if Davis somehow resolves this case, his future fights will happen under an intense microscope. Every athletic commission in every state will be scrutinizing his license applications. Nevada, New York, California, the major boxing markets could all decide he's too much of a liability. And without commission approval, there are no big fights. No big fights means no big money. No big money means promoters start looking elsewhere for their next pay-per-view star.
Baltimore boxing champion Gervonta "Tank" Davis faces new abuse claims from a woman who claims to be his ex-girlfriend. This is according to our media partner, the Baltimore Banner. Courtney Russell says she dated Davis for 5 months and recently filed a civil lawsuit accusing him of aggravated battery, false imprisonment, and other offenses. She claims Davis physically attacked her a number of times during their relationship. Russell claims the most recent incident was Monday at a Miami nightclub. Davis is scheduled to fight Jake Paul in Miami on November 14th.
Let me get your pair of ankles, sir. Yeah, I'm gonna start getting.
Oh, no, let Fit deal with that.
Yeah, let Fit.
Turn around, watch these guys. Let me deal with Fit real quick. Have Rosado come over here.
I ain't got no weapons, man. It's just your bread, right? Yeah. Alright, you screwed. Happy great. You could turn around, man.
Here's the kicker. While most of the boxing industry maintained an awkward silence about these allegations, Tank's rivals didn't hold back. Ryan Garcia jumped on social media during an online conversation and absolutely torched Davis. Garcia stated unequivocally that he believed the incident was captured on surveillance video and didn't mince words about his disapproval of the alleged actions. Coming from another high-profile boxer, that's significant. Garcia knows the business, knows how these things usually get swept under the rug, but he chose to speak out anyway. Then you had boxing analyst Boxing completely changing his tune about Tank's comeback prospects. He admitted that the extensive media coverage and increasingly dire legal situation forced him to abandon his earlier prediction of a triumphant March return. Even the most optimistic voices in boxing started acknowledging that this situation was different, more serious, with consequences that couldn't be managed or minimized.
Here to address a domestic violence incident involving professional boxer Gervonta Davis, also known as Tank. The victim reported that Mr. Davis grabbed her by her back of her head, pulling her by her hair with one hand and by her throat with the other. He forcefully escorted her down a stairway and toward the parking garage while maintaining his grip on the back of her head. The victim further reported they were previously involved in an intimate relationship for approximately 5 months. Lead detective Gary Florencio obtained and reviewed video surveillance footage that corroborates key elements of the victim's statement. As a result of the diligent and hard work of our Special Victims Unit, an arrest warrant has been issued for Gervonta Bryant Davis on the following charges: battery, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping. The investigation determined that Mr. Davis used force to restrain and attempt to remove the victim from the location against her will. The Miami Gardens Police Department is actively working with the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force to locate and apprehend Mr.
Now listen to this perspective from Hassan Campbell, who's approaching this with heavy skepticism about the timing and motives. Campbell points to what he sees as inconsistent timing. Why did these charges take 3 months to file after the alleged incident? He suggests potential financial motives tied to a post-breakup dispute and argues that high-profile black athletes are disproportionately targeted through their personal relationships. His critique goes deeper, touching on systemic issues of race, fame, and accountability and how these stories get covered and prosecuted. Campbell's not defending the alleged actions, but he's questioning whether the legal system and media treat everyone equally. It's a complex argument that highlights how these cases intersect with broader social issues beyond just the immediate allegations.
If they do resolve this issue, they work something out, that the next couple of fights for Tank are going to be very much put under a microscope. He's going to have a lot of potentially negative attention, criticism from the public on those fights. I know there's lucrative rematches there for him with Lamont Roach, with Pitbull Cruz, amongst other fighters. The winner of potentially Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez would be a big fight for him as well. But you got to ask yourself too, how are the commissions going to react to this, and if they're going to give any issues to him in terms of licensing him for fights in their.
And then we have Jake Paul, who was actually scheduled to fight Tank in what would have been a massive exhibition event. Paul didn't just cancel the fight, he absolutely destroyed Davis publicly. Paul called Tank an actual walking human piece of garbage and listed a litany of complaints about working with him. The unprofessionalism, showing up hours late to shoots, the constant legal drama, the bizarre requests. Paul's condemnation escalated when he said, "If you support this man, you support the most vile sin a man can commit." He explained his decision by saying, "I didn't want to give this woman abuser a platform to grow his fans and bank account." Paul apologized to everyone impacted, the undercard fighters, his team, everyone who sacrificed time with family preparing for a fight that got canceled because Tank lost his unintelligent mind again. But here's what makes this even more complex. In rare candid moments, Davis himself has talked about his internal struggles. He's admitted that becoming a father changed how he views himself, pushing him toward humility and emotional growth. He's even considered life beyond boxing, but in the same breath, he's expressed fear that seeking therapy or inner peace might dull the aggressive edge he believes is essential for ring success. It's a poignant conflict between fatherhood responsibilities and the violent mentality his profession demands.
Because he beat up a woman.
Oh, really? Like, allegedly, or like he did?
No, it's on camera.
Oh, it's on camera?
Yeah.
Wait, what you mean? Like, at a hotel or something?
I guess it was at a strip club. She's a stripper, and then he pulled.
So here's the bottom line. Tank Davis built his career on brutal knockouts and cultivating an aura of fear inside the boxing ring. But outside those ropes, the picture emerging from police reports, court records, and video evidence is deeply troubling. These aren't internet rumors or gossip blog speculation. These are documented cases with active investigations and law enforcement currently seeking Davis. His entire boxing future now sits under an unforgiving microscope, and the sport must confront an uncomfortable question it's avoided for too long. How long can raw talent protect someone from accountability for their actions outside the ring? Because one thing's certain: power without consequences always leaves a trail of damage. The question is whether Tank's knockout power can save him from the knockout punch that his own choices have set up. What do you think? Can Davis survive this latest scandal, or is this finally the one that ends his career? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want more real breakdowns instead of hype and speculation, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, because this story is far from over, and things are about to get even more intense.
A whole lot going on. I thought he was coming back maybe in March, but I don't know. TMZ's reporting this, everybody's reporting it. I hope this situation can be resolved in the quickest and most peaceful way.
Think about this for a moment. We're witnessing what could be the complete implosion of one of boxing's most marketable stars in real time. And here's what makes this absolutely fascinating from a business perspective. Tank Davis wasn't just another fighter. He was Mayweather Promotions' golden goose, the heir apparent to Floyd's empire. We're talking about a fighter who could sell 200,000 pay-per-view buys on name recognition alone, someone who generated millions in gate receipts every time he stepped into an arena. But now, sponsors are quietly distancing themselves. Television networks are having emergency meetings about future broadcast deals. The entire financial ecosystem built around Tank Davis is crumbling faster than his opponents hit the canvas.
Problem with your hands, my nigga. You about to throw everything away because you got a problem with your hands. And I have to say allegedly, but at the same time, it's bad and it doesn't look good for you, Tank, because you got a habit where we actually see footage of you doing the same exact things when you grab that female and at that sports arena. You grab that female by the back of her neck and you dragged her out the same way this female was describing. And see, the sad part about it is, we can all tell that this is about to become a money grab, because if this is a situation that happened 3 months ago, why are you filing charges now? Because it's over with? The relationship is in the garbage? And whoever's advising him is telling him to let you go because everything is getting ready to go in the garbage? It frustrates me and it irritates me that every successful black man, especially the athletes, their downfall is...
But here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the ripple effect this is having throughout the entire boxing industry. Other fighters in similar weight classes are suddenly seeing opportunities they never imagined possible. Shakur Stevenson's team is already positioning him as the clean-cut alternative to Tank's chaos. Isaac Cruz's promoters are pushing narratives about authentic Mexican warrior spirit versus manufactured American hype. Even Ryan Garcia, despite his own controversies, looks like a choir boy compared to Tank's legal troubles. The vacuum left by Davis's potential downfall is creating a feeding frenzy among lightweight contenders who smell blood in the water and championship opportunities that might have taken years to materialize.
That's why I don't want to box no more. I want to do therapy, right? But I feel as though if I do therapy, it will lose the fire that I have inside me. I want everything out of me, where so I don't never think about fighting again. I don't think about even getting angry, you know what I mean? Because I have 2 girls, 2 daughters. I'm wanting to be much softer, you know what I mean? Be more humble and things like that.
And get this, the legal implications go way beyond just this single case. Legal experts are pointing out that Tank's pattern of behavior could trigger federal RICO investigations if prosecutors decide to examine how his team has consistently managed to minimize consequences for repeated offenses. We're talking about potential obstruction of justice charges, witness intimidation allegations, and conspiracy charges that could implicate everyone in his inner circle. The FBI has taken down entire sports organizations for less systematic behavior than what's being alleged here. If federal investigators decide Tank's legal troubles represent organized criminal activity rather than isolated incidents, everyone from his promoters to his training staff could find themselves facing serious federal charges. Now here's something that's been flying under the radar. The insurance companies that back major boxing events are starting to panic. These multi-million-dollar fight cards require massive insurance policies to protect against cancellations, and Tank Davis has become what industry insiders call an uninsurable risk. Lloyd's of London, the company that underwrites most major boxing events, has quietly circulated internal memos flagging Davis as a potential liability that could result in catastrophic financial losses. When insurance companies won't cover your fights, promoters can't risk booking you. It's that simple. We're talking about an entire industry infrastructure that's designed to minimize risk, and Tank has become the definition of maximum risk. But wait, there's another angle to this story that nobody's talking about: the impact on amateur boxing and youth programs. Tank Davis was supposed to be inspiration for kids growing up in Baltimore and similar communities. His story was packaged as proof that boxing could provide an escape route from poverty and street life. But now, youth boxing coaches across the country are having to explain to their athletes why their former hero is facing arrest warrants. The boys and girls clubs that use Tank's image in their promotional materials are quietly removing those posters. The mentorship programs that featured his success story are scrambling to find replacement role models. The damage extends far beyond Tank's personal brand. It's undermining the entire narrative that boxing uses to justify its existence as a positive force in disadvantaged communities. Here's what's really wild. While Tank's legal troubles dominate headlines, there's a parallel story developing about how social media has completely changed how these scandals unfold. In the Mike Tyson era, fighters could disappear from public view between fights and let their legal teams handle damage control behind closed doors. But Tank can't escape the constant scrutiny of Instagram live sessions, Twitter feuds, and TikTok videos that get analyzed frame by frame for evidence of his state of mind. Every social media post becomes potential evidence. Every public appearance gets recorded by dozens of phones and uploaded instantly. The digital panopticon means there's nowhere to hide, no cooling-off period, no opportunity to craft a careful comeback narrative. Tank's entire life has become content for public consumption, and every piece of that content potentially damages his legal defense. And here's something that's absolutely mind-blowing: the international implications of Tank's downfall. Boxing is a global sport, and Davis was being positioned for massive fights in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and London that could have generated hundreds of millions in revenue. But now those international promoters are backing away faster than his opponents hit the canvas. The Saudi Arabian boxing authorities, who have been throwing around massive purses to attract American fighters, have made it clear they won't associate their growing boxing program with domestic violence controversies. The UK Boxing Board has informal policies about denying licenses to fighters with pending serious criminal charges. Japan, Australia, Mexico, every major international boxing market is suddenly off-limits to someone who is supposed to be boxing's next global superstar. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Investigators are starting to look at whether Tank's team has been systematically covering up incidents that never made it to police reports. Sources close to the investigation suggest there might be additional victims who were paid to stay silent, NDAs that were signed to bury evidence, and a pattern of witness intimidation that goes back years. If those allegations prove true, we're not just talking about domestic violence charges. We're talking about racketeering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice charges that could result in decades in federal prison. The same legal strategies that brought down organized crime families could be applied to Tank's inner circle if prosecutors decide to treat this as organized criminal activity rather than isolated personal incidents. Think about this timing for a second. Tank's legal implosion is happening right as boxing is trying to establish legitimacy in mainstream sports media. ESPN, DAZN, and other major networks have invested hundreds of millions of dollars trying to bring boxing back to prime-time television and attract casual sports fans who have been turned off by the sport's corruption and violence. But Tank Davis represents everything that's wrong with boxing's culture: the glorification of violence outside the ring, the systematic covering up of criminal behavior, the prioritization of profit over basic human decency. His downfall isn't just bad for his career. It's potentially devastating for boxing's attempts to rebrand itself as legitimate entertainment rather than a circus sideshow featuring criminals and sociopaths. Here's what makes this situation absolutely unprecedented in modern boxing history: the convergence of video evidence, social media scrutiny, federal law enforcement interest, and a cultural moment where domestic violence allegations are taken more seriously than ever before. In previous eras, a fighter with Tank's talent and earning potential could weather almost any scandal. But we're living in a different world now. Corporate sponsors have zero tolerance for domestic violence associations. Streaming platforms and television networks face immediate boycotts for promoting fighters with serious criminal allegations. Even hardcore boxing fans are starting to demand better behavior from their heroes. The protective bubble that used to surround elite athletes has completely burst, and Tank Davis is finding out what accountability looks like when you can't punch your way out of consequences.